Hi, and welcome to another episode of Was It Worth Watching? This is episode 12, so merrily we go along. But glad you could join me. For those of you who have been keeping up with the podcast, I appreciate the comments and feedback. And for those of you who are just joining for the first time, I hope you like what you see and hear. And if you do, please give me a like and a subscribe and continue to follow my podcast as well as my YouTube and Instagram pages. All right, so for this episode, I've got two new movies to give you my thoughts about. The first one being Dust Bunny, and the second is the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night. All right, so with that being said, let's get started. So, our first film is Dust Bunny. So, this is a film basically about a little girl who believes the dust bunny under her bed has become this ginormous monster that she wished for and has been eating her parents and her foster parents. She finally decides she needs help since her new foster parents won't believe her. And she happens to see her neighbor from across the hall take on some monsters of his own. And so she decides to hire him to help her kill the monster under her bed. So, what did I think about Dust Bunny? Well, this was another movie, kind of like Fackham Hall, where I didn't see any trailers for this film. As much as I go to the theater and sit through sometimes 30 minutes worth of previews, I had never seen a preview for this film. When I saw that it was a film that was being released this weekend, I was like, Dust Bunny, I never heard of it. So I decided to check out the trailer online, and it looked relatively interesting. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So the film, it's listed as on IMDb or whatever. It's listed as a horror film, while on some other internet platforms, it's listed as a drama or a thriller. So that's kind of how I felt about the movie. I'm not exactly sure where it wanted to go. Is it a horror film? It could be considered a fantasy horror, something like Pan's Labyrinth, or um, there's a couple other movies I can't think off the top of my head, but um, movies where they're not really horror or blood and guts and jump scares. It's more of a fantasy. It plays definitely like a fantasy film. I actually, when I thought about it, it plays like an anime where it's cartoonish, but then there are some violent scenes. Nothing that would scare children. When I say violent, I'm referring to gunplay, um, and a couple of fight scenes where it's a cartoon, so you can't really take it too seriously. But then there's the action sequences, and some anime there's horror sequences. So it definitely plays like an anime. Visually, it's a fun movie. The director is definitely trying to do a whole lot of fancy camera work and transitions and stuff. So if you're the type of person that likes visual aesthetics and you like, the visual effects were so great and things like that, then you might like this movie. Story wise, been there, done that. It plays off of, pretty much every child's nightmare that there's a monster under the bed. There have been movies where there's a monster in the closet. So been there, done that. The monster effect is definitely all CGI, and gets a little campy. I don't want to give away too much, but you know, it was it was like it seemed like it was geared for children, not young children. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want you to take your 5 or 6 year old to go see this movie. It'd probably freak them out. But it's definitely geared for a younger audience. The acting was okay. I thought the dialogue was kind of silly. And for me, one of the things that kind of got on my nerve was that in the background, there's this constant background music, especially when characters are having a dialogue. There's this kind of whimsical background music that you would hear on like a Hallmark Channel movie or a Lifetime movie. Uh, for me, it took away from the movie because if music doesn't need to be in the background, it shouldn't be there. If it's not to enhance the scene or the tension or the action or whatever, it shouldn't be there. I don't see why there would be background music during a conversation. So that's just my opinion. But overall, um, it wasn't boring. I wanted to see where the movie was going. If I watched this on TV, I may have turned it off, um, just for the simple fact that I tend to give movies less of an opportunity when I'm watching them on streaming or on TV, on regular TV. I tend not to have any patience, but when I'm in the theater, I will give it the full watch unless it's really bad. Then I'm sorry, I'm walking out. So, was it worth watching? Dust Bunny, in my opinion, was not worth watching, at least not in theaters. Again, if you're the type of person that enjoys a lot of visual effects and fancy camera work and transitions and things like that, you'd probably enjoy it. If you're a type of person that just wants to go out and watch a mind-numbing film for a couple hours, it's probably worth you going to the theater to see. But in my opinion, wait for it to come on streaming. It wasn't worth going to the theater for. I think there were probably 6 or 7 people in the theater with me, um, and I couldn't really read the audience. No one really said anything. The jokes kind of fell flat, so I didn't hear anybody chuckle or laugh. Um, and when everybody was walking out, nobody really were having discussions about the film. So kind of hard to read. I was shocked to see the critic score on Rotten Tomato. This film has like a 82 or 83, maybe even higher, critic score. And I read some of the reviews. A lot of the critics that liked it, they were more complimenting the director. This is his first film, his directorial debut. So, you know, they were saying good things about him in general. And they were also giving credit to the originality of the film. But again, I don't think it was that original. I have seen fantasy films like this, fantasy horror films like this. So I didn't think it was original. I didn't think it was anything special. Um, at the time of this recording, there weren't enough audience reviews, but there were some people who I guess did venture out to see it uh, when I saw it, and some liked it. Some said it was awful. It wasn't a good movie. So there's a lot of mixed reviews right now, but I was surprised with the audience or with the critics rating. But again, just my opinion. Everybody has one. So yeah, not worth the watch. Wait for it to come on streaming. All right. So our next film is the remake of the 1984 film Silent Night, Deadly Night. So here you have a young boy named Billy who witnesses his parents murdered by a man dressed in a Santa Claus suit. This affects him to the point where now he is obsessed with handing out justice Santa Claus style. If you're good, you get a gift. If you're naughty, you get punished. And in this case, you get punished to death. so so basically the film revolves around Billy, now an adult, and he is going around making his rounds, um, deciding who is naughty and who is nice. However, this time he has inner character that's kind of pointing out who needs to die within the film. The film also revolves around a relationship with him and a young woman who also appears to have some anger management issues as well. So they seem to be the perfect couple. So, what did I think about the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night? Well, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I was not a fan of the 1984 version. I saw it back in 1984 and didn't like it. I thought it was a goofy movie. Back in 1984, the film was actually pulled from theaters after a week of showing because there was so much stink about a film about Santa Claus killing people. So a lot of theaters pulled it. They didn't want to risk losing audience for a film that was a low budget horror film. So the movie finally found more traction when it hit VHS, and it grew to have a cult following. This new film, I wouldn't really consider it a remake. I would consider it a reboot because besides just the beginning story of Billy and his witnessing his parents get killed by a guy dressed like Santa, it totally takes the story in a different direction. The direction it took, I thought, was kind of dumb. I'm gonna put it right there out there. It was eye rolling, to say the least. I mean, here you have it where now the character, instead of him just being deranged because of the image of Santa Claus killing his parents and that affecting him mentally, now you have him connected to the killer who killed his parents. So now he has this inner voice that's telling him who he needs to kill. I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I don't want to go in too deep into it. But I was a little worried when I saw the previews for this film because it's produced by the same company that did Terrifier, I believe Terrifier 2 and 3. And for anyone who used to watch my old podcast would know that I hate the Terrifier movies. I hate them with a passion. And this movie follows suit. It's just nothing but gratuitous gore. If you're the type of person that likes that type of film, then you'll probably love this movie. But for me, that's not a horror movie. I just don't enjoy kill after kill after kill just for the sake of showing more and more blood and brains and guts, and it's not worth it. It really isn't. Again, my opinion, a lot of people seem to love it. Again, I'm surprised with the Rotten Tomatoes score that this film got. And this one's also right now in the 80s. But was it worth watching? Silent Night, Deadly Night was not worth watching. For me, it was a total waste of time. I could have easily skipped this movie, did something else, but I wanted to give it a shot since I had saw the original and wanted to see if they were going to stay true to the original story or if they were going to switch it around and make it their own. And they definitely did make it their own. There were some critic reviews that I totally disagreed with, where they basically said this movie took the original and made it even better. I'm not going to agree with that. At the time of this filming, there wasn't a audience score. There weren't enough reviews, but there were some audience members who did review it. And there were quite a few that liked it, but there were quite a few that also didn't like it. There was one review where they said exactly what I said. This was a horrible movie. I hope that they don't continue on with this, because the original Silent Night, Deadly Night spawned 5 other sequels. Yeah, so there was Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the 6th one was actually a reboot of the original. They tried to make a different story of it. And so for this one, I'm going to consider this a reboot as well. I don't think it's a remake. It's definitely a reboot because it doesn't follow the same storyline. There was one critic review that also said that it makes us think about morals, and I'm just like, okay, that's reaching. That's reaching. I'm sorry, but any type of horror movie, of course, would make you think about morals. Is killing right? No. So whatever you do in life, has certain consequences, but is killing someone who's doing wrong justice, or are you just as bad as them? So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Anyway, not worth the watch. Don't waste your time. Wait for it to come on streaming if you're even remotely interested. But this is one movie that I wish they would pull out of theaters after a week as well. Let it find traction on streaming or somewhere else, because I just didn't care for it at all. So no go on Silent Night, Deadly Night. All right, so there you have it. 2 more not worth the watches. The first one being Dust Bunny, and the second, Silent Night, Deadly Night. So I'm going to continue to keep my fingers crossed that we will start to get some movies that are worth the watch. I am looking forward to the upcoming next few weeks. I took a look around and kind of got an idea of what's coming out. So there were 3 or 4 movies that I'm actually holding out hope for, but you never know. So I hope you continue to follow my podcast, and I hope you're checking out my daily fun facts on Instagram and YouTube. Currently, I'm doing a holiday edition, so I'm doing some fun facts on some of our favorite holiday films. And if you do like what you see in here, please continue to like and subscribe, and tell your friends and family about the podcast. I would love to have more people join in and provide more feedback and comments. I'm always willing to have a conversation. But until then, keep watching what's worth watching. Bye.